We move away from Parliament and the talk of the 8th Parliament. Let's talk about the election 2020 petition. And a member of the NDC legal team, spokesperson of the team, Dr. Bassette Bamba, has expressed discontent about the constitution of the panel of judges sitting on the petition. Dr. Bassette, who actually speaks for the legal team of John Mahama, said the panel is not balanced, describing it as unfair. He spoke to me earlier on the AM show this morning following the outcome of day one of the election petition hearing.
Well, to be frank with you, I was extremely disappointed with the composition of the panel. And it is not to take away anything from the integrity and the competence of the judges on the panel. Look, this is a very, very important case. It's a peculiar case. And in the Fourth Republic, I mean, the first time that we had a case like this was in the 2012 petition. Now, when you have a case like this, a case with high political stakes about who has been validly elected as the president of the Republic of Ghana, it's always important, despite whatever power the Chief Justice may have in empaneling a court, to make sure that you have a balanced and a fair panel. I do not consider this panel to be fair and balanced for a number of reasons. Now, first, this panel is a departure from what we had in 2012. In 2012, we had a panel of 9. And if my memory serves me right, the Chief Justice did not sit on the panel. Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo did not sit. She was one of the most senior judges on the panel. And then the most junior judges did not sit. Justice Akamba did not sit. Justice Benin did not sit. So when you look at the panel of 2012, the Chief Justice did not sit. The only senior most judges who did not sit in addition to the Chief Justice were essentially Justice Sophia Akuffo. But otherwise, it was the most senior justices who were in panel. Now, this panel, you have a panel of 7 instead of 9, and no reason has been given why this time around we have a panel of 7. Now, there is something that lawyers say, it's actually a legal matter. You often say that your law is actually in a very wretched state when a law depends on the discretion of the decision maker, because you don't want things to be based on somebody's discretion. You want some guidance, some rules as to how things should be done. And when you look at global trends, often in matters like this, you have the most senior judges of the court sitting on the matter. It happened during the Brexit and what have you. So I would have preferred that instead of having 6 of the judges being NPP appointed judges and 1 judge being an NDC appointed judge, I would have preferred a balance in the panel. Look, often you hear people say that the composition of a panel doesn't matter. It's about judges have taken the judicial oath to be fair, without fear and favor. But that is something we tell first-year law students. I mean, anybody who has studied law and knows law as a living reality knows that the judge that you appear before, matters. It matters a lot. And we have so many academic studies that show that the kind of the person that you meet, the personality of the judge in terms of his principles, the judicial record, and all that matters. So I was a bit disappointed, and I hope that perhaps the panel that we saw yesterday will not be the same panel that will sit on this matter. Nothing prevents the Chief Justice from using one panel just for the purposes of the application yesterday, and a different panel for the hearing. A balanced and diversified panel in such a matter is extremely important. It adds on to the public acceptability of any decision. It also ensures that whatever strong views that anybody wants to express, those views are expressed in the end. The majority will carry the day if there's any dissent at all. It has a lot of implications. If you have followed proceedings in some counties, you realize that often judges have different approaches. They have different principles. They have the way they approach the law may be different. That is why in the US, you have some judges are appointed by Republicans, some judges are appointed by Democrats, and it becomes actually a tug of war as to who should be approved. When you look at the record of some of our judges, we have a sense of how they vote in some cases. Not that they are doing anything wrong, but that may be in line with their judicial principle and approaches. And what I'm saying is that in a matter like this, with high political stakes, it's important that you have a panel that has a diversity of legal approaches and all that. Some judges never disagree with others when they're on a panel, others do. And this is a case where you have you need a balanced and a diversified panel. And in my view, the panel that we had is not a balanced and diversified panel.
Well, speaking on the same show, former Information Minister and spokesperson for Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's legal team, Kojo Nkrumah, disagreed with Dr. Bassette Bamba on this view.
First of all, I think I need to draw your attention and your viewers' attention to something that may appear innocuous, but it is deliberate. The NDC is on a path to smear and undermine the integrity of the Supreme Court and the justices of the Supreme Court. And they are doing that because they are clear in their mind that this petition before the courts is a ruse. And I explain to you. The first evidence you notice is Muntaka Muhammad Mubarak, who goes on national television and alleges, without more, just a mere allegation, that a Supreme Court judge has been involved in calling one NDC member of parliament elect, trying to convince same to vote for Speaker Michael Quaid during the election of Speaker. The real object of that allegation is to begin to poison the wells ahead of this litigation. Make no mistake about it. It is a deliberate, calculated attempt to smear and to bring the Supreme Court and the justice of the Supreme Court into question, even as they commence this hearing. And then now you have this very bogus argument that my good friend Dr. Bamba makes, that if the Chief Justice sits on a panel or does not sit on a panel, justice may or may not be delivered. That when you have a panel of 7 or a panel of 9, it can affect whether or not justice will be delivered. And that when you have an older or a younger bench, it can affect how justice may or may not be delivered. It is one of the most bogus analysis that I have ever heard when it comes to jurisprudence. And I think it is clear that it is part of a calculated effort to bring the Supreme Court and the justices of the Supreme Court into question and into public opprobrium as they commence this exercise of hearing the petition. Prior to all of this, you heard some of the NDC apparatchiks make an argument that they themselves are not even sure they will get justice, and that the courts have not been favorable to them in recent times. I think that if we are serious about building a democracy and building institutions, we ought to be the last persons to undermine the democracy and the institutions of that democracy. If you are serious about going before the courts and putting a credible petition before the courts and getting that petition heard live, with all of your arguments and evidence or the lack of it scrutinized before everybody's eyes, you don't resort to this shenanigans of now bringing the court and the justices into disrepute by comments like this. We all know as lawyers that judges have their jurisprudence over the years, yes, but judges of a court of competent jurisdiction hear a matter on the law and the facts that you put before them. In the 2012-2013 presidential election petition, there were judges who had been put on the bench by the previous Kufuor administration, who in their analysis and in their ruling disagreed with the MPP's petition and ruled against us. In recent cases, there are judges who have been put on the bench during an NDC administration who have ruled against NDC applications. This same bench, this same panel, is the same panel that yesterday dismissed our affidavits in opposition to the application for leave to amend the petition that was before it. So this bogus attempt to begin to skew the public's minds against the panel is a very dangerous enterprise. And I'd like to encourage our colleagues on the other side to desist from.
We move away from the election petition issue and to the Ashanti region, because the region has recorded a 339% increase in active cases of COVID-19 in less than a month. Active cases rose to 79 from 18 cases recorded before the Christmas festivities. 7 are currently in critical conditions. Health authorities in the region say both treatment and testing centers are being expanded in the wake of the increasing cases. Ashanti Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Emmanuel Tenkwari, explains measures to help contain the spread. He's observed a decline in adherence to the safety protocols, especially during funerals and other social gatherings. The region intends to reactivate treatment and isolation centers closed after the peak period of the pandemic. He spoke to Love FM's Prince Apia Deborah, who joins us via Zoom with more on this. Prince, what more has the director been telling you? I'm afraid we do not have Prince Apia on the line, but we're certainly going to raise him and have a lot more conversation on the COVID-19 situation in the Ashanti region. Moving on to other issues, we'll return to the story pretty shortly, well, as soon as we have Prince Apia back. Well, leader of government's Environmental Sustainability Task Force against illegal mining is accusing some faceless element at the corridors of power of derailing the present fight against Galamsey. Chum Ampofo Ajekum says the intended switch of government anti-Galamsey fight from the Environment Ministry to the Lands Ministry will not change anything if the president fails to call these powerful hands to order. He says the same people calling for the head of Professor Frimpong Boateng today are same powerful hands behind illegal mining in the country's forest. Mr. Jekum spoke to Erastus Asari Donko after he led his team to arrest some 7 Chinese miners and seized 10 excavators in the Tabosere Forest Enclave. There's a reports coming up.
This is a drone image of the Apawasa forest in the central region. The footage shows an unending tale of horror of the once green forest turned into miles of wasteland by illegal mining. This is the Kobro section of the Apamprama Forest Reserve in the Amansia Central District of the Ashanti region. Scenes of shocking pillage of this natural resource by faceless people hiding behind Chinese and local illegal miners. This is the Tabosere Forest Enclave in the western region. Within months, miners operating under confusing claims of authority are greedily consuming this national asset with impunity. One thing was common with our visit to these sites. All of them had entry permits from the Forestry Commission but could not immediately produce mining permits from authorized institutions. These sites have foreign and local nationals abusing the environment, but these are not the real owners. Upon entry by enforcement agencies, caretaker supervisors start making calls to people in higher places.
Hello, Director.
Depending on how powerful the owners are, the enforcement agencies are forced to leave the illegality to continue. Mr. Chum Ampofo Ajekum leads the Ministry of Environment's Sustainability Task Force. He believes President Akufo-Addo's illegal mining fight will be lost until he calls these faceless remote miners in his government to order.
If we want to win this fight against illegal mining, we should have a strong, independent person. That person should be able to withstand calls from powerful people. Sometimes, before you could even effect arrest in the forest, the calls start coming in. Before we could transport these excavators, we had to deal with a number of calls from powerful people. Those who hurl insults on you and accuse you of destroying the NPP with this fight. I disagree with people who say Professor Frimpong Boateng has failed in this fight. Those are people who are actively engaged in illegal mining. The rate at which the country's forests are being destroyed calls for urgent attention.
The task force has in the past week seized these excavators, transported to Kumasi, and arrested a number of Chinese nationals engaged in illegal mining. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
We go back to our earlier story on COVID-19, the fact that cases are going up and most people are certainly not observing the COVID-19 protocols. Joining me for a conversation is Managing Trustee, Ghana COVID-19 Private Sector Fund, Senor Hossi. Indeed, this fund helped put up the only infectious disease and isolation treatment center that we have located here in Accra. Senor, a very good morning to you. I've been following you closely. You posted that COVID-19 is in with a big bang, talking about ICUs being full, medics and supplies overstretched. How do we go back to when we used to take COVID-19 seriously as a people and as a country?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good morning, Mama B. The connections is a bit weak. Could you please go over your question again?
So I'm asking, how do we get back to when we once used to take COVID-19 seriously as a people in a country? Hello, Senor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you now, very loud and clear.
Okay, before I come to the question that I was asking you, let's appreciate from where you sit when you talk about ICUs being full, medics and supplies overstretched. How seriously is this matter?
It's a very serious matter, and there's a need for us to actually change our general orientation to dealing with this particular problem as a country. There's a total loss of urgency, and I don't think the government's communication and management of events have really helped heighten the urgency that's required. At the beginning of this entire pandemic and its entry into Ghana, there was a very high sense of caution. And it was because government had heightened the alert level as well as the urgency that was required to deal with it. With the politics coming into play, there's been a major change and shift in that entire phenomenon. And we've seen all of us lowering our guard. And I think that definitely has to change. Our ICUs are full. It's not rocket science. These are facts. This week, I have lost 2 friends, and then I've actually had a very close friend lose a niece. So in fact, 3 people very well connected to me, all in this week. I've had a lot of cases being reported, and a lot of friends reaching out to me to help them get a bed here or a bed there. It's becoming unsustainable. Our health facilities are getting highly overstretched, and Ghanaians must realize that there's a major urgency at this time. And the politicians and the government people, the public officers, must communicate same so the public can react appropriately. It's just unfortunate. You know, we started this with a lot of testing. We started this with a lot of tracing, a lot of consciousness and awareness. And all of a sudden, everything fizzles out. You get COVID today, nobody's going to be asking you who you've been in contact with. Nobody's going to come in to try and test the people you've come into contact with. It's as if nobody cares. It's like as if we are back to business as usual. I mean, that to some extent will be acceptable under certain circumstances, but not under a COVID circumstance at all. No tracing goes on. I've had friends, I have colleagues in my office who have got COVID, and when they get COVID, nobody reaches out to really ask, you know, where have you been? Have you been working? Who are those there? Nobody reaches out to see if you have those you are in touch with also having COVID, so we can help stem the spread of this virus.
So, Senor,
there is nothing like that whatsoever going on.
Senor, I've got to ask you, so how do we get back to taking this disease seriously? What must be, who should begin it? I mean, where do we put the pressure?
I mean, it definitely goes straight to it goes back to government. First of all, the politics must stop. You know, the politics must stop. The suppression of data must stop. The deliberate, disregard or suspension of tracing to help keep the numbers down must also stop. People really need to know that this is widespread. It is not 1,000 and whatever it is that's being bandied around. This is dishonest. It must stop. Start being truthful with the people so people realize that there's a real agency in the country. Otherwise, sooner than later, all our health systems are going to crash, and you will not even get health access for simple diseases, even like malaria at some point. Because there will be no hospital bed for anybody. Our hospitals will get overrun. So the key thing here is the politics stopping, government taking full responsibility and being honest about what is happening, so we can actually get the right orientation and positioning of the public. We need to review our restrictions and intensify them just like we did in the early days. Our public gatherings, everything is just gone away. We're all doing parties, we're all attending events, we're all having funerals, and funerals have gotten back to the sizes that they used to be. All right, I've been to a few funerals in these past few months, and it's as if we don't have COVID anymore in this country. You know, the restrictions on the number of people gathering must be fully enforced again. All these weddings and all that must also go back to scale, so we minimize that spread.
I thank you so much for your time, Senor Hosey. His managing trustee, the Ghana COVID-19 Private Sector Fund. That fund helped put up our only infectious disease isolation treatment center. Coming up is business contract between government and real estate players to produce 20,000 housing units annually reaches advanced stage. Daryl Carr has got details in this and more coming up shortly.
Hello, welcome to your business update. My name is Daryl Kwao. The Ghana Real Estate Developers Association says the commercial contract between government and industry players to provide 20,000 housing units annually for the next 20 years has reached an advanced stage. The project is expected to take off this year. In an interview with Joy Business, Executive Secretary of GREDA, Samuel Amegaibo, said although the process is delayed, they are optimistic government will prioritize the housing projects in its second term.
Give a proposal to the government for supply of affordable housing, and I was very much happy to hear the president say that, oh, GREDA, you came to me to supply 5,000 affordable housing. That is not adequate, and that he challenged us to rather provide 20,000 affordable housing every year. So we went back, to the drawing board, and then came back with a response to the president's requests. And then I think we discussed about this land guard issues and all. It was very frank, and he was happy to have met with us. So we came back with a response to his request, reviewed our proposal, and submitted. Unfortunately, that response was not immediately responded to as we expected, based on the zeal and enthusiasm that we had that meeting with him. I'm not too sure what it was, but it took a long time. And then late last year, then we finally got a response that the matter has been minuted to the sector minister. And so we were engaged at the ministry and we began discussions. And I'm happy to say that that discussion led to actually signing an MOU. And so we have gotten to that point of signing an MOU, and we hope that his new term, as early as possible, will offer us a grounding on which to build on. And so we are not going to go back to the old processes of going back and forth. That is, we've gotten to a point where an MOU has been signed, and we can build on that agreement that has been signed.
And that's your business update. There's more after this break. Stay tuned.
Let's talk some tech trends with Kobe, Spiky and Nkrumah. He's right here in the studio. Spiky, let's talk about the trends. What is in the trends? I know that WhatsApp definitely, because people are leaving. Why?
Well, so WhatsApp updated its privacy policy, and it was saying that if you do not agree to share your data with Facebook, its mother company, by the 8th of February, you can't use the app anymore. And people are misunderstanding, thinking that their messages are going to be read by WhatsApp, and so they're panicking and they're all leaving. And I just tell people, listen, if you're going to be leaving WhatsApp for another app, you might as well leave Facebook and Instagram too, because they're already grabbing your data. So yeah, people are panicking. And Telegram and Signal, two of the competitive apps in that space, I've seen like a huge surge in signups after WhatsApp announced this privacy update. And yeah, Telegram up to about 20 million people new signups, and same for Signal too. So yeah, WhatsApp is having to do a lot of damage control.
Should we be leaving too?
Well, it's if you are concerned about your privacy, which I think everyone should.
So what exactly are they going to put on Facebook?
They're not putting it on Facebook. You know how sometimes you're on the internet and then you go to a website and you see some adverts and it reminds you of something you were just searching for or you were talking about very recently. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Yes. So Facebook wants to be showing you ads, which is basically how their business model works. They advertise because it's free. WhatsApp is free. Instagram is free. So the more they show you ads that are relevant to you, the more the advertisers come to them, and then the more money they make. So they need your data, which is like some demographic stuff, to share with the advertisers, so they can target you better. Yes.
Okay.
That's the whole idea.
But
if you don't want that, which is understandable, some people don't want to share this data, then don't be on Facebook.
I don't want to share the data, but I don't know if I want to leave WhatsApp too.
That's
but let's talk about Samsung. There's something new.
Yes, so Samsung just launched new devices, the S21, S21 Plus, and S21 Ultra, the Galaxy Buds Pro, and something they call the Galaxy Smart Tag. If you're used to losing your keys, have you ever lost your keys or something, and then you're looking for it, someone says, who are you looking for? You're like, oh, my keys, and they say, try calling it. You know that joke? Yeah. So Samsung has created a key holder of sorts, that you can tag on your device, or not on your device, on your keys or anything that you usually lose. And once you search for it on your phone, it can tell you the exact location of that item with a smart tag. And the new phones, as always, great cameras, great new design. They've got a new design out. You can see the colors. I'm loving the black. They call it Phantom Black. And then there's a purple, two-tone purple with gold, and there's a rose gold, and there's a silver, all in Phantom Violets, Phantom Rose Gold.
And this is how much on the market?
So they haven't announced the prices in Ghana yet because it was just released. But yeah, it's supposedly going to be cheaper than last year's model, which is actually very good news.
That'll be interesting. We'll see how that goes, but I certainly want to be able to trace my keys.
Yes, so you should be getting a smart tag. I will be getting a smart tag. Yeah, and as you can see on the screen, they've got a new Galaxy Buds Pro. The great thing with that is, imagine having earphones in your ear, and when someone starts talking to you, reduces the music so you can hear the person.
Oh, that's
and then
so
when the person
cool.
starts talking, it goes back up.
That's so
That
cool.
is amazing.
I would love to own one. Well, Kobe, thank you very much.
Thank you for
that's
having
Kobe
me.
Spiky and Nkrumah with Tech Trends. And that will be it really for News Desk. I thank you so much for your company. Log on to myjawline.com where we have plenty of news. I tell you what, you've heard us talk about COVID-19. Cases are going up. We've heard ICUs, centers being full. Just take care of yourself. Do the smallest thing that you can do. Wear your mask, wash your hands, take care of you, and I will take care of me. Coming up next is Mapito Sibiris, JoyNews Interactive. She's got a special guest, may I say guests, that she'll be interacting with. It will be plenty of music, good music on JoyNews Interactive. You don't want to miss it. 6 Strings is on the show. See you soon.